hotel rooms. I haven't been in
They're
one
the
in too long.
best. Oh my God. No, I would live in a hotel if I could. Like that. It's the best. How is it up there? How are shows? How's life?
Um,
Still, is it
I
true?
don't know. It's so we hit 50% last week, and it's weird because the last two shows have been shitty people. Like not shitty people, but like their crowds aren't great. And
Yeah.
it almost feels like it's sold out back to 275 with just 150 people.
Wow.
So I'm
Nice.
kind of yeah. We have Tom Papa next week, and he has a wonderful, delightful crowd. So I'm kind of looking forward to that.
Oh, that's nice when it's like good. Yeah, I'm like helping write for and so opening for Melissa Villaseñor, and her
Right.
crowds are like the sweetest people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where you don't even have to worry about someone talking because the crowd will be like, "Shut up."
You're like, "Hey, I'm trying to listen. You knock it off over there." Yeah, no, it's crazy. It's not I'm used to just slobs in half the crowds I do. So I'm like, "Oh, this is so nice."
Right? Where you're like, wow, people come in dressed up and everyone's like polite.
Yeah, they're like, I'm
Oh,
ready for a show. And like, it's not a bunch of like men alone in like Slayer t-shirts being like, yeah, talk about your butthole. Like,
right.
how do we
Oh,
target this audience?
I still don't understand that audience. They're so weird.
Yeah, it's just like a lonely guys found comedy, and then
I
there they
still,
go.
yeah. But so, like, for me, let's say you fell off stage, right? For some reason, something happened, you slipped and fell. I would die laughing because to me, I've seen a million bits. So, like, that happening is like, I can't hold it. Or
Yeah.
we had this lady on the open mic last Tuesday who was doing voices for bananas. She was like really bad, but she was like,
Oh
man,
God.
what she go, bananas, let's talk about them. And then people are like quiet, and I'm dying because I go, oh, this is gonna be a train wreck. And
Oh,
then
it's my
she's
favorite
like,
thing to watch.
oh, so for us, I think it's funny, but these dudes who are by themselves, just kind of out. I'm like, what are you looking for? I don't know what you want.
I don't know. It's like, I'm like, you're not even gonna befriend the other guy alone here. Like, you just start a friend group for fuck's sake.
Right,
Uh,
you got the same T-shirts on. You'll be
I
homies.
know. Right? I guess. I mean, it's like, all right. Well, better that you're at this comedy show than I don't know, like running over people with your car or whatever. I don't know. Just like nobody fucks me, and then just like anyway, too dark.
No, that I've been fascinated with that because we've only had a couple people that I can for sure be like, oh, you don't make anybody come. Like this is your I don't know, personality. But they always are terrible.
Yeah. It's
Right?
so
Like they're the people who are yelling at me like it's my First Amendment right that I can yell.
Oh my God. Yeah, at home, go home. Dude, it's so funny cuz like hecklers especially it like I just don't get it. It's like I really feel like sometimes they leave the show going, "I helped." And like even if a comedian is like cuz we're people pleasers, we're friendly, so I imagine people be like, "Oh, all good, dude." Everyone hates you if you're heckling. Like everyone should know that. Like shut the fuck up.
Well, that's one of my favorite things when people will walk out and there'll be merch or something and they go, "Hey, I was the guy who yelled, 'Fuck you, you idiot!'" And
Like, yeah, oh, I
and you're like,
hate you.
right? We're like, no, you ruined the show. The problem is that we're not like a C club or something where if someone yells something at a comic and they just shut down because they don't know what to do. Like everyone here is talented, so
Yeah, they
people
like
can
know how to
deal with
handle
it.
it.
Right. So I think people think, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah, well, then you have comics who do like, you know, you know, people will occasionally get a heckler and it goes really funny, so they'll post a video. Or there's comics who regularly post these videos of like destroying hecklers, which is like now people think they're supposed to heckle.
Yeah.
Like, also, it's really funny when someone does that and then like they don't really destroy them; they just like make kind of a good point, and you're like, what are you doing?
I destroyed him. Like, no, he
Hey,
got you.
sir, could you please be quiet? You're like, got him. Yeah, it's like what?
Roasted.
I hate it. I just like I've been lucky that I think most of the times I've had a heckler because I started in like grimy bar shows and stuff.
Right.
So you're just like you have to force people to pay attention to you, which it helped me in a lot of ways. But like it's always gone okay. Like I'm pretty quick, I can handle it. But the idea of like just people coming thinking that like you want them to do that is, I don't ever like it. Like every once in a while I've gotten a good little riff out of it, but I'm never like, thank God. Thank God someone interrupted the act I've been working on for years. Trying to craft.
Yeah, that's the nuttiest thing I've tried. When I first started, I used to try to explain to people who I was kicking out, like, hey, and then you're like, okay, you're just an idiot, you're not gonna get it. But I used to always say, like, could you imagine if you were at Romeo and Juliet and someone was like, or Juliet's taking the knife and she's stabbing herself, or did she do poison? I don't remember. Anyway,
I don't remember. They're like, show us your tits.
Yeah. Like they would be like, you would get murdered.
Yeah. People paid so much money for these tickets. Get the fuck out of here. It's like, you know, and it sucks because it's almost always someone who's belligerently drunk. So they just aren't even coherent enough to be like, I'm helping. I ran into a woman in the bathroom of a club a couple weeks ago who was crying. Oh. Staff had asked her, it was the end of the show. And they're like, hey, you know, you got to be quiet because when you talk, it ruins the show. And she was in the bathroom like, I didn't want to ruin the show. Like she just was like trying to participate. And it was one of those, it was a club where like, there's not a separate bathroom for the green room. So you just have to go.
Oh, yeah.
And I like ran in and I like walked in and I was like, oh no. And she's like, it was supposed to be a fun weekend and now my husband's mad at me. And I was like, it's fine. No one cares. Like and I'm too nice. I was just like, I didn't even, no one noticed. And I don't know if no one noticed, but like, I didn't notice, but.
Yeah, I had a lady cry on me last week and I forgot how ridiculous it is. Cause we had to, she took a picture. So, hey, delete the picture and all that. And then we cut her off cause she was also talking. So it's like, you can watch the show, but no more service. And then she came out, why are you kicking me out? And I go, no one's kicking you out. And she goes, that guy. And she pointed at Usher. He's like, he's a snitch. And I work and I don't say nothing to nobody where I work at. And she's bawling. And her boyfriend's like, let's go, babe, let's go. And I'm sitting there.
It's the worst when you're with. And I've been that woman, not in a comedy show. But
have you really?
I've been a crying drunk woman for sure.
Oh,
like, never
okay,
in an audience, but like, there's just no consoling us. It's like, once it starts going, it's like, oh, everything's terrible. And you're like, we gotta.
Right.
You just have to like let a drunk woman cry it out till she falls asleep. That's like.
Because I was even trying to help where I go, no one's mad. It's, nothing personal. She goes, well, I'm mad. And I go, okay, well, you don't have to be mad. She's like, well, everyone hates me. And I go, oh my God.
Well, yeah, that is probably true, but that's not why we're doing this.
No, that to me though is so much easier to deal with than these. I don't even know what to, like, people who are just not going to leave, right? Like the people who are, I'm here.
I refuse.
Yeah, because those people become more of a focal point than the show. Where people start turning in their chairs and like, what's going on there?
It's like, what's going on? And it's just like, just go. If you weren't a dick, we wouldn't be here. All that to say that like, I've missed it, like I'm so happy to be, I'm like, oh yeah, look at these slobs. These like, somebody yells something, don't. But like, it's nice to just be back and not on Zoom
take
shows.
It in any way.
I'm like, anything.
How has the crowds been for you? How being back? How's things going?
So good. It's like so good that I don't know. Like I know I'm a good comedian. I know I'm funny, but it's like, have I like reached a new level, or are you guys just like excited to be out? Because these crowds that I've been doing the last like couple weeks have been explosive, and it's probably some combination of like, I have material I've worked on, I do a good job, I'm professional, but also maybe it is people just like, oh, thank God, someone who's not my fucking fat husband staring me in the face, showing me memes every goddamn day, because it's been like applause breaks and like things where you just go like, yeah, where you could really get way too confident. Here's what I'll say: the next time I bomb is gonna hurt so bad because I'm on such a high that it's like I have these like, God, I hope it's not the album recording. It's just like, boo. like, oh man, I'm gonna have to lock myself away for a while. It's been great. I don't like, are the crowds up in Portland? Do they feel any different?
I've been thinking about it because now as an usher, we're talking to people more to kind of like, hey, these are the rules or whatever. So we lead off with, hey, have you been here before? And I would say 40% of people have never been here.
Wow.
So I think it's a mixture of people being excited to come back out, and then it's also people who have never seen stand-up. Because for a while, we had to compete with nightclubs and theaters and movie theaters.
And there's no music right now either.
There's nothing.
Live music.
Yeah, if you want to come out and have a live event, you have to go to a comedy club.
Yeah, I've been running into a lot of people that are like, this is my first stand-up show. I also think probably during the pandemic when people were like locked inside, there's more opportunity to discover stand-up. So more like, how can I see that live? But yeah, I've been meeting a lot of people like first-time comedy clubbers. And some of those people just need to be told like, hey, don't.
Yeah.
People just don't know the etiquette. It's like, it's so funny too, because I remember like there have been times in the past where you run into crowds that like are polite, like they enjoy the show, but they don't really laugh. And sometimes I want to be like, you can laugh out loud. Like you're not going to get canceled for what I say. You know, like you're not gonna, because there's been, I think any comedian can relate to like feeling that you get off stage, you go, that's fine. I feel like they didn't love it. And sometimes those are the shows where the most people are coming up. Oh, man, I really loved it. And it's like, they treated it too much like a theater show. But I'm telling you, these last, like, I think everyone's just like, thank God I can go somewhere.
Yeah.
Because it's been, like, there are moments where I'm like, I think I could stage dive. I think I could do it.
Please
I mean, everyone's like in their tables, they're sitting, and I just crash into a table. But I'm like, I think they want it. This crowd, they're electric. Or like I did the Funny Bones, and they have this like interesting setup. I haven't been to the Helium since, I don't know if they have plexiglass between tables.
Oh, yeah, we don't have that. I've seen that.
Yeah, it's the only club I've seen do it, but like, just like bashing into the, I thought that would make it weird. I thought that would fuck up the energy, but like, that was pretty good too. But it is nice seeing just like a full crowd. And you're right, like even getting up to 50% in these rooms, because clubs have been like, yeah, we're only at X capacity.
Right.
And it feels so much more than my first weekend back. I was at a club in Sacramento that was like 25% capacity. And I was so grateful to be on stage and whatever, but it was like, oh, this is like performing at a weird conference. It's just individual tables, and you're like, I could just meet everyone in here if I wanted. Yeah,
our first weekend back in June 2020, we had Earthquake, and there was 9 people for a show.
Oh my God! Can you 9 people for Earthquake?
9 people. It was dumb. I mean, it was great to see him in that, but I mean, we had Regan with 60 or something. Like it's just.
It's like interesting strange to have the intimate, but like, I mean, I can't imagine being in a crowd of 9 people with Earthquake. It would feel like he was performing like personally for your birthday, which like. Yeah,
but not in like a good setting, like you on your couch and him where your TV is. Like, go ahead.
Yeah, and it's like not comfortable for the comedian, and like it really puts in perspective too. Some of these places going, oh, we're at 50% capacity. You really go like, wow, we've really been packing people in here like sardines. That's crazy.
I was gonna say I can't wait till we go back to it, but I can. But it's gonna happen where we start seating tables together again, like you're two,
oh,
sit
yeah.
tight. Like that's gonna happen.
Yeah, because like you have to be with your own group, right? I was just at one of the shows, I think Hilarities in Cleveland. They had just jumped up their capacity, and it was fun. They were like, we're really excited because the show was sold out, but they were also like so used to less that the kitchen was overwhelmed. Everyone's like sweating and like, I'll be right with you. Like, oh, hold on. Because it's like, we're all coming out of this like trauma of even trying to interact with people after the show. Because I always like to like, just say thank you and like meet people. Because I really appreciate that anyone comes out. But I've always been a little awkward, but I feel like it's like next level. I'm like, hey, thanks.
I was gonna say, yeah, has that? Because for me, now we had 148 people last night, and I was exhausted.
Yeah.
I had one kick out, but I was like, I can't do anymore. Has it been weird for you as well to kind of get back to dealing with crowds where you like it feels normal, but I know it's not.
Yeah, it's like it's a little overwhelming going from so long of being like kind of alone. I mean, I had a roommate for a while in quarantine, and then I moved in with the guy I'm dating. So I was never like holed up completely alone.
Yeah.
I don't know how anyone who had to do that sort of, oh God, but like it is like overwhelming because I think you really learned, or I really learned, I don't know what anyone else did, but like there really is a lot to be said about how like energy, like people give off energy and there's an energy exchange, which is what makes comedy shows so great. But like going from kind of just being with your own energy to like hordes of people it's a lot. It's cool to be back, but it's like an adjustment.
Our first one back at 50% capacity was the weirdest show we've had, because now it's like when we were at 25% capacity, people were spread out. Now we are definitely 6 feet, and you could tell people were a little anxious, and and now that's kind of dissipated, but you could definitely tell when we first went there. And so I think when we go back to full capacity, which will happen in, I don't know, a month or something, there's going to be that little like, ooh, but then the crowds are going to be, yeah, and I can't wait for that.
Explosive. Yeah, it is like, it's weird too going from like, because I'm doing a lot of like kind of one-nighters in and out. You know, there've been like weekend shows, but every city is like different with how they feel about masks and being like, like I'm vaccinated, but I'm like, what are the rules here? And there's some cities where you're like, oh, it definitely like they still have masks everywhere. Or there's some cities where like you're walking around with a mask and people are like, well, are you like not vaccinated? Is that why you like, is that why you're wearing a mask? And you're like, oh no, it's interesting, but I still think people are like in this sort of in-between phase of like, what do we do? What's okay? It's just all so crazy.
Actually, that's fascinating to me, because I mean, or I guess I can't say normal times, but 2 years ago, if you were kind of going around, you knew, hey, if I'm in this area, I can't necessarily get more political, or if I'm in this area, I can't. For you, I mean, I'm sure you have, some COVID stuff, but for going around and filling out a crowd with this, how has that been? Because everyone's different. Like
everyone's so different, and it's so crazy that like people's it's so crazy to me that a pandemic became political. Yeah. That a mask will say more about you other than like, yeah, I just am trying not to get sick. Is that I don't have like a statue of Joe Biden in my home. I just the rules said a mask, and so I trusted the rules. I'm a sheep. I don't know what you want me to tell you. But like, it's interesting. I've been staying away from like COVID material. Not even like I better not bring it up. It's just like I'm fucking over it,
Right.
And it seems like I haven't encountered anyone who's like thrown any strong opinions at it or at me about it, but there are people. Like I went down to Austin maybe a month or so ago, and it was interesting because going from LA is like super liberal bubble, very masky, it's a lot of Portland's probably like similar.
It's the exact same, yeah.
Where like people still people are vaxxed, but they like still carry their masks so that that they're liberal. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, why does this have to be your entire personality? That like, do you need the mask or not? I carry too much shit. Like, what do I just tell me what I need? But then in Austin, it was like the Wild West. Like I realized I was like walking to my hotel room with my mask on, and I was like, oh, like where in LA, if you don't have a mask, it's changed now because everything's loosening. But at the time, it was like, if you didn't have a mask, people were like, well, what's going on with that weirdo? Why don't they have a mask? And it was the exact opposite in Austin, where they're like, what? Why are you wearing a mask? I even had an Uber driver go, you don't have to wear that in here. And it's like, I mean, that feels like, for this Uber
I don't like that.
That's like a guy that's like, no, we don't need to use condoms. I'm clean. And it's like, I don't.
I take a shower every day.
Said that, yeah. I was like, I honestly was fine. And then now you said it, and I feel like we need 5 condoms. Like, because what are you doing? Like, there's so many people coming in and out of here. Like, it's been interesting. It's nice to feel like here's the light at the end of the tunnel, like feeling for me. I mean, this whole thing has felt like a light at the end of the tunnel because, dude, I was spiraling. That's spiraling. I don't know why I said it like that.
I'm going to start saying it like that. Thank you.
Spiraling. In quarantine. I literally was like, I gotta go back to school. Like because I'm like,
right, because you're like, if I can't do comedy, what the fuck am I even doing?
And it's like I was full-time comedy, but I'm not delusional. I'm very aware of sort of my place on the ladder is like lower tier. I headline weekends that are fallouts, or weekends that they're like, let's take a chance, or I feature for bigger comedians at bigger clubs, and like that's fine. It's all part of the process. I'm growing and getting better, but like, when everything shut down and there's just like, the theater comics are going to have to go to clubs and then it's going to push out. I was like, maybe I'll become a therapist. I like applied to be a park ranger. I was losing my mind.
What the fuck?
I got a job as a park ranger. I got offered a job, and thank God stand-up stuff picked up right as that was about to start. It was like a seasonal job, and I was like, maybe I'll just go be in the woods for a while. And then someone's like, hey, do you want to come do shows? I was like, oh, thank God. But like... What's cool is, this weekend I'm in Bloomington, Indiana, which, if people don't know, this is like the Portland of Indiana. It's the one little like blue dot. I don't know, whatever. And they're starting to loosen up masks here. And when that to me, I'm like, when the liberal cities are loosening up masks, it really feels like light at the end. Like, okay. So we're feeling pretty confident that like we're getting over this thing and the vaccinations are like helping. Because like when you go to a city that's like, I go to plenty of red states and red cities. I perform for rednecks all the time. Love it. Yeah. These are my people. It's like my family is so white trash. We make Larry the Cable Guy look like a Kennedy, But I don't know. I don't know what the rules are when you're just like, I'm not going to wear a mask because of my freedom. Literally. When people are like, I will risk my health to make a point, is like, what is your point when you're on a ventilator? Like, no one cares.
Well, that's why I was getting to the point where I was like, because we would see people come in without masks, and we'd have to be like, hey, mask up. This was like, 6 months ago. And I go,
it's like they want to start a fight, is what
I was like, I'm just going to start taking my clothes off when people walk, because fuck it, who cares at this point? Where you're like, it's just a rule. Just wear a mask. It became so weird. But the one thing
pull your dick out every time someone doesn't have a mask, and you're like, well, why not? And then they're like, oh, good Lord, sir. And they like put on a mask.
Right. And they're like, thank you. But I'm going to miss it for one small reason, that it was a good indicator of how the night's going to go with you. Like, if you're wearing one of those American flag Punisher shirts, I know where we're at. Or if you have your mask on, like your chin, I go, okay, I know where we're at. Like, there's things.
It's nice to have the flags of like, it's literally like, I mean, it really makes me think of like Roy Wood Jr. has a joke about like, well, I don't want them to get rid of the Confederate flag because I want to know who the dangerous white people are. But it's like, it's like, I kind of like would rather like, let everyone speak completely freely so we know who to stay the fuck away from. Like, I don't want you to keep that tucked in. Like, I want to know that. And I'm like, oh, they're a monster. Don't go near them. But
yeah, which is cool. Be a monster. I just don't want to,
Is it just do it somewhere else?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just actually thought about this. I haven't really talked to a comic without a mask in a very long time. Because for me, I'm still trying to be almost polite in a way where I don't want to offend somebody.
Yeah, I don't want you to think that I don't care about you. Right. That's where we are with the masks.
There's some people who don't give a fuck. They're coming in like, I'm not wearing a mask. And then there's some people who are like, hey, can I take my mask? And so I'm still in this weird zone where I've just been like, I don't want to offend anyone coming in.
Yeah, that is a weird thing, because I find myself like half the time I'm in a mask, it's because I don't know how you feel about masks. Because like, I feel like if we're all vaxxed, we're probably okay. But like, I don't want you to think I don't care, or that I don't want to come in not. That's the thing too, is like, I don't want to come in not wearing a mask thinking, well, I'm vaccinated, it's fine. And someone go, well, obviously she's a Nazi. And it's like, wait, what? No,
you can't win now.
I didn't know. I know. It's like, you have to have the mask. Now it's all making sense why my friends are still carrying their masks on their wrists, just so people know that it's like, yeah, no, I what? Like, you don't have a mask. Are you transphobic? And you're like, how did you jump to that? No, I just thought it was okay. But I do the same thing. I constantly have my mask, and it's like, what are we doing here? What are we, which, I mean, I will say that, like, I mean, I'm sure everyone had a healthy year. There's a part of me, it's like, I should probably travel with a mask all the time anyway.
I haven't gotten sick
I
in a very
still
long time.
am,
Yeah.
but I didn't realize how often I was just like a little sick. Like, I think, like, my voice is not super high, but I think I thought I had a raspier voice naturally than I do. And I think I was just always like a little sick. I was like, yeah, this is my voice. And it's like, no, you just like live on planes and are disgusting. Like, so this year was, it was nice. It was nice to know that you don't have to be, I don't know. Such a
You can do what you want to do. If you want to wear a mask your whole life. Who gives a fuck at this point?
Everyone. I'm going to, what if I just wore it on stage, never took it off? That was weird to me, was when doing shows where you had to wear it on stage, because like, I obviously understood, and like, of course, like, you know, we're all doing our best and fucking scared and didn't know what was going on. But like, I have jokes and have structure in my act, but I feel like my face adds so much to some of my jokes that like not having expressions was weird. And also just, you really lose some type of connection not seeing someone's mouth. Although what a great year for people with bad teeth. I mean, what a time to shine.
Yeah, you're like, I'm living. I'm a 10.
This is, how many people duped someone? Like, how many people out there like thought they found the person of their dreams, and then they're like, can I take down my mask to kiss you? And it's like, ugh, they have one tooth and like half of their lips just missing, and you're like, ah!
Right, got them. Well, for you, like, I've noticed that there are some things that are important. Like, I've had people have a mask on stage. You're like, oh, you gotta have no fucking mask on. People have to see your whole face.
Yeah.
But then I've also had like this position where I was like, you gotta have low ceilings. You gotta have, and I don't know if you need to. Like, we have these outside shows that are happening, and you definitely lose laughter, but there's still a certain special aspect to just having live theater performance. People can be spread out, there could be no fucking roof, and it still goes. So are there things where you're like, oh, I thought this was a given that you had to have, but no, fuck it. I'm realizing.
Yeah, I realized that like, I still would always probably prefer, there is something with the low ceiling. It really is like the energy gets trapped in there.
Yeah.
But like, it's just a different experience when you're doing, because I did a lot of outdoor shows and like, like I did a couple where it was like an outdoor. I'm using the word amphitheater in the like engineering sense. I wasn't doing like a giant amphitheater, but like where you're on the bottom and the seating like stacks up and it has this sort of like arena seating row, like gets higher thing.
You did the Hollywood Bowl.
Yes, I also did that. It was terrible. That one was drive-in, and like drive-in shows, like the fact that Bert Kreischer did a whole tour of them, like, is so impressive, because whatever it is that I'm getting from live shows that makes me like love what I do, you don't get it at a drive-in show. Like stopping to wait for people to honk for a punchline or just plowing through it is, I was so grateful for the opportunity, and it is really cool to get to be like, I played at the, like, you know, it's giant bowl shows, and it's like a cool like bucket list that I never would have gotten, at least not at this point in my career, if it wasn't for the entire world shutting down. But outdoor is fine. Everyone's sitting, but man, drive-in shows, comedy was not meant for drive-in. That is not an ideal setting. But you're right that like, I mean, it's just the same, I imagine, as like, you don't necessarily get the same capture of the laughter if you're doing like a theater show. But also, I have big energy. So like, I'm a big energy comedian, and I really think that like a lot of times the audience gives back what you're putting out. Cause like I've done one arena show, and it was at University of South Florida, go Bulls, for their homecoming week. And it's like, it was in the Sundome, which is where they do the basketball games. So it's not outdoors, but it's giant ceilings and like rows up to, you know, and I thought like, you know, oh, it's not going to be great. But when you do well in a room like that, it's like a wave of like laughter and energy comes back at you. So you just, it's almost kind of like tweaking the muscle, I think. Even Zoom shows, it was like, there's a little bit of a different way to do it. And there's no, like, I can't explain what that is, but you kind of learn to utilize what you've got with, like, I don't know.
No, I think like so. I'm interested now to see what happens in the upcoming months because I think people with more of a bombastic type of performing style are coming in better just because when you do an outside show, that energy kind of can translate. But if you're a quiet, meek comic, you haven't worked your muscle out. I mean, if you're on a Zoom show and you're kind of like doing Stephen Wright, people are just not interested. And if you're outside trying to do that, like, get the fuck out of here.
No, but I've always felt that way, is that like it, like, and I love Stephen Wright. He's an incredible joke writer. He's one of the greatest comedians, you know, there is, but he's such a great joke writer. And that's always my thing, is like, if you're going to be low energy, you better fucking crush your jokes. Like, it has to be killer. And, you know, when people nail it, they nail it. But like, it really is that outside, the energy just translates. So, and I don't have to put on an energy. It's, you know, I guess a gift and a curse that I have a nightmarish amount of energy almost all the time. Like, I'm like, wah! And then at the night, I just like pass out. It's like I tap out of energy. It's so funny because people assume I would have trouble falling asleep. And I'm like, no, I use all of my energy.
Yeah, I've been turbo buttoning this whole time. Yeah, I'm fucking depleted.
My body's like, stop. But it made a difference. And I feel like people are seeing that now, like coming out of quarantine and starting to do shows, because there have been people that are like super rusty. They're just, well, you know, we're coming out of it. It's also just like at this point, the rust is off. Like, if you're still rusty, that's on you, dude. Like, but yeah, it's been helpful. But I went full ham on Zoom shows. Like, I think a lot of people thought, well, like, it's a conference and stuff. I was like running around. I went crazy. And like, I mean, there's a part of me, there's that like purist, like I want my peers to like me, that sometimes in the past has like stopped myself from getting too silly. Cause I'm like, I want to be, you know, you look at like Bill Burr and he's just like fucking, you know, just like standing there and commanding the room. And there's that part of you as like a stand-up that wants to just, I want to be like, just cool and also hilarious. And I'm like, no, I'm not cool. I'm like, I'm a clown and I love being silly. So thankfully the last couple of years, and the Comedy Store actually helped with that, getting late night spots there and stuff, like kind of helped me embrace the fact that it's like, yeah, you know what, actually maybe I am gonna hump the stool, so what? The stool was asking for it, so
it had all its legs out.
Yeah, just the whole thing just out there looking at me like a snack.
All right, my bad. We'll do the proper introduction. So, ladies and gentlemen, center stage. I'm here with Jessica Michelle Singleton. She has the Two Filthy Nerds podcast and an album you can go out and fuck with right now. Please Don't Leave Me.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's that. I am curious, actually, now talking about the silly shit. I think the silly shit is gonna start commanding more attention than the like cool shit. So 2 years ago, I think you had to be cool, right? You're like, hey, you know, I don't care. And I saw Jeremiah Watkins up here 2 weeks ago.
He's
Jeremiah. As silly as they come.
Yeah.
But I saw the crowd. I think it might be being cooped up for so long. The crowd kind of craves this silliness now. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It's a new. I want to almost say it's the new cool, but silly's like, fuck yeah, I love this.
Yeah, it's just like, I think there's an additional lightheartedness to it that like, we've all been like, you know, cooped up, trapped with our thoughts, taking life too seriously. And yeah, it's like fun to have someone put a new spin on some dark thought you've had. And God knows I have jokes that get real dark. Like, but it's refreshing to see someone just like, let's just get goofy. I think a lot of, you know, we all like become adults. We get too serious. We think we have to like act a certain way. And really it's like, why? We're all like, it's just like, we're all gonna die. Let's just be kooky and weird and loud and laugh our asses off. And sometimes the best shit is just, it doesn't have to be the wittiest. I mean, nothing feels better, I think, than like to a comedian than like when you write like a really great joke and you're like, wow, perfect tag. But even not on stage doing comedy, like in groups with friends, when you just have those moments where someone does something so silly and you're like laughing till you cry. Like, that's the best. And I'm kind of glad I've always been that person in my friend groups, and I'm kind of glad I let go of the like, yeah, I can't be cool and good at comedy. Like I can't be worried about whether or not people are like, yeah, she's so collected. I didn't get into comedy for people to be like, wow, look how relaxed she is. It's like, no, I'm nuts. I'm a ball of energy. Let's have fun up there.
Well, I think too, you'd be able to speak more on this than I would because you're at the store all the time. But as more people kind of figure out what comedy is or about or understand it, I think they've become more like appreciative of like Chappelle or somebody who, go. But there's something still about that person in your friend group who's a fucking lunatic and running around with like underwear on their head that you're like, that's fucking funny.
Yeah.
So I think as more people kind of get into stand up, it becomes this. Of course, appreciate what you're doing. It's amazing, but this person who just humped a stool is fucking blowing my mind.
Yeah, that like this. Yeah, that like this person's act out where they just did like all these faces and like win 100 miles an hour. It's just like, I mean, you think of like Jim Carrey. He wasn't up there being like, and here's a great point about. And he is now. That's what he's like. Yeah, that's all he does. But like we all love Jim Carrey because at some point he was like, just like crazy faces and body parts, and it is just like you appreciate both of those types of people or both of those types of humor. And I think it's interesting that like more people are discovering comedy, and I think we're seeing more people become connoisseurs. And I think that there's obviously everyone has their preferences and they'll go certain directions, but I think more people are getting exposed to it and they're understanding like, oh, there's like kind of different genres, and you can only love one, but you can have appreciation for both, or you can love all of them. And that's been a fun thing, like on the road with Melissa, because she does impressions, and she's not someone who like, touts being a clean comedian, but she just is, or she's a naturally pretty clean person, so her act ends up being pretty clean. And when she asked me to open for her, I was like, sure, do you want me to work clean? Because I have a solid 25, and that's it. That's like, that's out. But it's good, solid. I've crafted that for emergencies over the years, And she's like, oh no, do whatever you want. And I was nervous, like her crowd wouldn't like the dirty, or like, or something, or it would make it weird when she goes up there and isn't doing dick jokes. But it's been cool. I've been getting a lot of feedback from people going, I really love that she brought you because it was so different. So we got to experience two different things. It's like, well, it's like a meal. You know what I mean? You have like dinner and dessert, and I don't want steak for dessert. Also, that's not true, actually. I probably would eat steak. But I'm an animal. But it's like, that's like, it doesn't have to be similar. And it's been cool seeing, I can go off the walls, lean in fully to what I do. And it's totally different from her, but people still like it. And that's great.
Well, also, I mean, you're funny. I think there comes a time when people are trying to be dirty for the sake of just being dirty.
Shocking, yeah.
Right? Yeah, where they're like, I fucked a Nazi or whatever, and you're like, okay.
Isn't that funny? Oh yeah. There's the thing is that like, there's nothing wrong with shock humor if it's like a good punchline. I love dirty humor, but like make jokes, and you can tell when someone is, and I think you see it a lot more when someone's new, when they're like putting on sort of a thing, because I think that's what you're supposed to do to like make it. Yeah. Where like, I'm just organically a dirty person. So when I tell you real life stories from my dirty, disgusting life, it's real. And I think, unfortunately, people can tell that. Whereas like if someone, like you said, is just trying to be like anal, right? That's a punchline.
Yeah. One of the funniest things I've seen here, this guy on the Portland's Funniest Person contest, he just started going off on pregnant bitches. And he's like, these pregnant bitches and just being pregnant. And like, it was the funniest shit because he thought, oh man, I'm saying too crazy that they're going to go. And you're like, no, you still have to be fun. Like, it still has to be a joke. So if it's high level clean or high level dirty, I think people appreciate both. I mean, there's going to be some people who are like, oh my God. But if it's funny, even grandma will laugh at like.
Oh yeah, that's my favorite thing too, is when like, sometimes people will be there with their parents or their like older parents, and like the older people are laughing harder. Like that's the best part, is being like, oh, you're ashamed because I'm doing sex jokes in front of your grandma. Like, you're here because she quit swallowing. Like that's why you exist, is that she's like, just fucking come inside me, Harold. I don't care anymore.
I'm tired of these towels. Just bust.
And there's always going to be people who just, there's that group of people who, intentionally seek out clean because they hear a word and they're like upset. But there's also people who do that with just like social issues and being offended, that you can't even make a point about, you can't try to make a joke about race or someone will immediately go, ah! And it's like, well, yes, there are people who just go off the rails and are just fucking racist. And you're like, what are you doing? But it's like, you don't have to hear the word black and be like, oh no, I'm blogging about this. Like, and it's funny because it's like not even just with dirty, but with dark or shocking humor. There's some people who just, it's like you can craft a really great, like Adrian Appalucci has some really great dark jokes, but then there's some people who will just go, school shootings are weird. And you're like, no, that's not. And that to me is more upsetting than people missing on dirty, is when someone tries to just be offensive and it's like, no, right. Being offensive isn't a punchline. Like, yes, you could have a punchline and some of your joke maybe offends people, but like no good comedian is like, the point is to offend everyone.
Yeah, no, yeah, the joke is for it, or yeah, the point is to be funny. Yeah. After everything. Yeah. So if it offends people, and truthfully, I mean, you can probably, again, answer this better than I can. I don't think you necessarily set out to offend someone. You're just like, this is fucking funny.
Yeah. You just go, this is silly. And then every once in a while, depending on the direction you think, there might be someone. Most jokes are probably going to offend someone. And it's not because they're offensive. It's just because everyone is so different. And people have weird triggers, and that, like, you could do a clean joke, but someone's like, I got molested by an aloe vera plant, and you're like, we can't win here. So, but
I don't know who told you that, but now I'm feel attacked.
And it's like, yeah, no, I think there's so much to be said about like jokes and structure and like making an act out of it versus just throwing words together, because I try to be conscious of that, but like I also don't want to be like, no, I do dick jokes, but they have meaning, because that's like, shut the fuck up. Yeah. But it's like, yeah, you have to have like punchlines and structure and story, and like I also just think the best comedy, in my opinion, and it's so subjective, so this really means nothing, but it's like I like whatever's real to you, like I can watch someone who's clean. Some of my favorite comedians to watch are completely different. Like, I love Jim Gaffigan. I'm never probably going to do jokes about food, but he's like silly and it's great. So it's just seeing someone kind of find their element, I think.
But, yeah, I mean, I think that you can almost tell if someone's being authentic, clean or dirty. Like, I didn't realize Nate Bargatze was clean until 12 years later or some shit. Like, I was like, oh, he didn't curse his whole time. Or like Sinbad or somebody they're clean, but they're not necessarily like, so I was reading a Bible or my grandma, I walked her across the street, because then either way, you're like, you're not being you, and that is coming off real. And I don't like that.
Like when people go out of their way to be like, I'm a clean comedian. Like,
you're a bad comedian.
You're probably a bad person is what you are. Is that like, what are you hiding? If you're like, I never say the F word. It's like, okay, so, but you've like touched a kid, right? Like that's what. Well, I think some of the best comedians that are clean, you don't even realize it until someone points it out. And you're like, oh yeah. Cause I don't think about the fact that some people are clean. But the funny thing is that like, if you're a little bit dirty, at least as a woman, people go, she's a dirty comedian. That's the thing I noticed, is that like, and I'm saying that as I'm about to record an album that is all dirty jokes. And I have other stuff, I'm working on shit about my family that's like, I think is funny, and it's not necessarily dirty. It's definitely dark, but like, I've just got this hour of like, this is cohesive and it all makes sense, but it is dirty. And so I'm just like, oh, here I go further backing myself into the corner of people being like, well, you're dirty, so...
Yeah, do you think you ever... Let's break it down. Let's get to it. Do you ever think you can get past that? Like, Nikki Glaser isn't really... I mean, she talks about some things, but she's not necessarily dirty. And I don't know if she's viewed as a dirty comic anymore.
I think she's gotten enough mainstream stuff, like these little like hosting things in her show, that people don't think about it. But then like, if you watch her special, it's dirty, or it's like what people would...
It's called banging.
Yeah. So I think you can like either get past it, or you get anointed by the industry as like, you get to be the one dirty female. Because I think that's what happens. They're like, well, we have that, and we don't know. Like the entertainment industry like side of things, like loves to just put people in a box and like, well, we already have the dirty woman box filled, so we don't need you. And you're like, no, but I have all this like there's more to me. And they're like, no, we heard you talk about cum once, so you're dirty. I think you can, but I think it comes more from like developing, like having your audience grow organically, because and I don't think this is probably not true across the board, but a lot of people who are like, you know, industry execs, like agents and maybe like TV development or whatever, they'll watch a 5-minute set of you and then sum you up as that. And you're like, that's not fair, but you have to also know that that's what you're getting into. Like, what's been cool for me though is that like I think people are starting to say, at least my peers, you know, are starting to realize that like, yes, I'm dirty, so a lot of my jokes are dirty, but I'm also a very talented writer. And that sounds so gross saying about myself, but I'm saying that because like Melissa, so clean, and she's like, would you help me write some jokes for my special? And then like I've got some random weird gigs over the pandemic of like doing funny punch up for things that were not dirty. I like wrote weird little like dad joke puns for a Fox show about, it's like a crime scene kitchen. It's a cooking show hosted by Joel McHale, but it was like, oh, after a while. And I think that also just comes with being like, yes, I'm dirty, but there's very clearly jokes in my act and people understand that like, you know, jokes, but sometimes you have to let people know. You have to be like, by the way, like I don't have to be dirty. It's just that, like I can do clean, but if the person booking me doesn't go, by the way, can you keep it clean? I'm not going to, because I'm gross.
Well, and you like, let's say you're a really good chef. You don't necessarily want to go home and cook what everyone else wants, right? You're like, I want to kind of cook what I want to make, because to me that's more fun.
Like, I want Taco Bell. That's, yeah. It's like, no, I can make you chicken cordon bleu, and it will be the best thing you've ever tasted. But if you just tell me to pick something, I'm going to get Pizza Hut. And that's what, like,
right.
Such a sad way to sum up my act. That I'm like, yeah, I'm
You're
Chili's.
Pizza Hut? Oh.
And I make it great. Does anyone remember that slogan from the late 80s and 90s, making it great? Okay.
Wait, so do you have a country song?
I do. I put out a country song. And it's legit a song. It's like...
Oh, no, I'm not even going to... I was going to be like...
People go like, oh, is it like a comedy song? And I'm like, there's like a couple funny lines in it, I guess. But it's... Yeah, I put it out in earlier this year.
Have you noticed... And this, I guess, will be my main point, because we're talking about necessarily being dirty or not. But have you noticed that as you kind of branch out and do new things and you get a crowd coming in, that they support you a little more, right? Where they're like, you can do what you want to do because I'm just a fan of yours.
Yes. And that's cool. It's cool to have people that are just like... ready. They're just like, hell yeah, whatever you're giving us, I'm taking it, because that kind of gives you, I think, more freedom to try things, you know, like like a country song, for God's sake. I was like, I might lose some fans on this, because there is like a hard line on country music where people go, oh, country music, you mean you're a racist? And you're like, no. No, I just like the sound of guitars and I drink beer a lot. Like, what do you want from me? But like, it's been cool being like, and even I did a one-woman show in Edinburgh, 2018, nothing like my stand-up. But I would do to promote the shows. So in Edinburgh, if anyone doesn't know, it's Edinburgh Fringe, giant festival in Scotland. It lasts for a whole month. But what you do is like, you go do stand-up sets if you're a comic, and then you do well, you'll hand out flyers like, hey, I have this show. And people would come see my sets and be like, oh, you know, when they were, anyone who was like, oh, we loved you, are you doing a show? And I'd hand them the card, and I'd be like, it's totally different. And it was cool getting people coming and going, wow, based on your set, this is not what I would have expected. And it was really cool to see, because it was like very like emotional roller coaster, very much more like a theatrical piece. And that's why I was like, I'm really scared. It was also that like, are my friends who are like cool stand-ups gonna be like, oh, one woman show, what a fucking loser. But it was cool getting to like do it and having people like receive it well. And it's like, so it's okay for me to like be sad and dark and weird. But I also am very much about like, I was adamant. I was like, this is not stand up. And like, I love a good emotional performance, but I do have this whole thing of like, let's, if you're crying and yelling at God, like, we don't have to keep calling it stand up comedy. Like, we can just call it a performance. Like, fine.
Right, like it
Call
doesn't all have to
theater.
be stand-up. Yeah, it can be an event.
Yeah, and it's like, because there are people who get mad about, like, you know, Nanette or whatever, and they're like, oh, it's not funny. And it's like, yeah, it can still be a good performance. But
Yeah,
like,
it's
wow,
still captivating. At
can
the
we
end
not,
of the day, is it
you know, what's
captivating?
comedy anymore? But it is, because I'm a weirdo, and I want to try new things. And it's like, I think some of the best stuff from anyone comes from taking a risk, and you have to be willing to have something fail to find the good stuff. So getting a little more comfortable where you're like, oh, my fans, and this is especially hard for me because I have just horrific abandonment issues, but it's like, oh, you guys are not going to not be my fans if I try this weird theater show and that sucks. You're still going to come to the comedy show and be like, yeah, all right, just, we didn't like that, but like, we're going to.
I mean, that's, I think, yeah, at the end of the day, your fans are going to be your fans. So if they catch you doing something in a theater and then they may go check out your stand-up, but they don't like it, they're still your fan from the theater. But there's probably a 60-70% chance that they're going to also like your stand-up. Stand-up the same way. Like, you just have to build up this audience who's like, you can do whatever, Justin.
They just love you.
We love you.
They just like, which is, first of all, so crazy, because why? Look at me. What a piece of junk.
Oh,
Like,
I'm not going to let that go on this. Yeah.
No, but it's like, it's just so cool to, like, you know, comedians, like, we all work our asses off, and we're like, you know, you start off running around doing 4 and 5 mics a night and just being like, please, could I do 5 minutes, into like, and we're like, somebody notice like how hard I worked on this one joke, and to get to a point where people are like coming to shows, because that's where I've gotten, is from like me being a random person, and people at the shows are like, we just wanted to come out from a comedy show for a comedy show. Now we know who you are. We love you. To like now doing shows where people come up and they're like, I've been hoping you'd come here. I've been following you. I listened to the podcast. Like I was so excited to see you. It's just so fucking cool that you're like, wow, thank you.
Right, because you're in a cool place, because it's only going to get better. Like, at one point it's gonna, you know, everyone does this, but I definitely think you're getting to a point where you're like, oh, people are liking me, they're loving me, and now they're coming out to see me.
Yeah.
Right.
And
well,
it's
you don't
like,
have to do a 4th of July weekend at a club where you can do any weekend.
Well, I'm not quite there yet, but if anyone has a hole on 4th of July, no, but no, it's been really cool. And it's also like, I'm so grateful to the clubs that like have brought me in and taken shots on me. Like, I mean, like Helium going like, yeah, I don't know which markets. There's some cities I know that I can draw in. There's some cities that like, I'm not sure. And there's probably like, maybe, I guess I probably have around like 15 to 20 clubs that have been like, I don't care. I like you. Let's have you. We'll build the audience. You come. We're going to get people out to see you, and then they'll like you, and then more people will come next time. And
Right.
that's something I'm really grateful for, is that like people who, you know, are in the business, who like see comedy all the time, because there's only so many dates to give out. So me getting a date anywhere, I'm like, oh my God, I've snuck in. Like, who died? Oh God, probably a lot of people last year. Good God. No, but it's working out for old JMS. No, I'm just kidding. But like, oh, it's so cool being like, oh, thanks. And then when you show up and then like people come and you're like, oh my God, it's all happening. It's cool to like notice the growth, and then also get the feedback of other people seeing it and going like, yeah, you're like on the up, and like, you know, every comedian wants validation. It's always nice.
Yeah. All right, well, the last thing we're going to do, we're going to get notes from a producer. It's a couple of questions. We'll answer them, and then we'll get out of here. But I do very much appreciate you taking this time to talk to me. We'll put this out probably Monday so people can go out and fuck with your shows this week.
Yeah, come to the shows in Indianapolis and St. Louis.
Yeah, so first off, is there a fan experience that stands out to you that feels like something that probably doesn't happen to most performers?
Oh, I'm trying to think.
Like, for me, I just realized this theory that I've been working on, that if someone is, like last night with George Lopez, someone also was Mexican and loved tamales. So when he started bringing it up, they were like yelling, and we're like, you got to stop. And then we kicked him out, and then on the way out, they're like, George, they're kicking. So like, they have this I'm also like you connection that becomes very strange, where they think George will be like, oh, let him stay.
My best friend. I mean, I think my equivalent to that is any woman listening knows the drunk woman in the bathroom at a club, or you've been the drunk woman when you go in and they're like, you become best friends. Like, I just love you. And I don't know if that's good or bad, but like, it's like women who have had some fun, promiscuous women, like to drink, like to party. They're like, you get me. And I get a lot of people who I remind them of their very specific best friend. Like, they're like, you remind me of my best friend. Which is such a cool feeling that it's like, oh, I feel like I'm a best friend. And then something else that started happening, very small, but like, I don't know, it'd be really funny if it like kept going. So for a while, I still do it. I'm not doing it on this tour I'm on with Melissa, because I'm not going to ask Melissa, the headliner, to take pictures of me with my pants off. But everywhere I go, I take pictures. If I'm headlining somewhere, I'll take a picture in front of like a landmark with no pants on. It's so stupid. And it's not like, there's definitely like hot girl comedy out there where like there's these comedians who also can wear a bikini, and it's like, fuck you, pick one.
Yeah.
How dare you be hot and also be able to do this? I'm very jealous. It's like I have an old man's butt, but it's just like a silly thing. And I've gotten a couple people tagging me in pictures of them with no pants on in front of something. And that's fun. I haven't gotten to the point that anyone is like bringing anything or like, but it doesn't matter. It's cool. I think that's probably the biggest one. I did a meetup once in Bloomington last time I was here. That was cool. My podcast was like, you're going to be in Bloomington. That's like middle Midwest. Let's do a group thing. And a bunch of people came and we just hung out like we met at a restaurant and just chatted and everyone got to know each other. It was like a small group, but I like that shit. And I don't know at what point it's nice being at like, I don't know how long I'll be at a level where like that's feasible. So as much as anyone wants to be like, I want to sell out theaters and like, I want my Netflix special or whatever, I really like connecting with like my fans and getting to like, it's really corny and dorky to be like, I feel like we're friends, but like, I don't know, I'm corny and dorky, so it's cool.
No, I think, I mean, again, you're going to reach a level, or people reach a level where Melissa's probably not going out meeting it because it's going to get weird, right? Like,
you know what she'll do is, it's also just energetically like
draining.
Sapping. She does impressions and like whatever. A lot of times she'll wait in the green room for a while, let it die down, and then she'll go out, and if there's like a handful of like diehards that are like, oh really, because there's people who like, what she has done, especially in quarantine, she was like doing these like live drawings and like Instagram lives, and she's at a level where like she has literally been, it's really cool to watch and hear that like because you don't think about it sometimes as an artist, but like we all have the thing we go to when we're sad, or like the movie you watch or the music you listen to that you're like, thank God for this fucking album. And you don't think like this literally got me through a time, but she is that for people. So those people will hang out and it's really cool. But you can't. Like I remember I did Hilarities in Cleveland years ago with Bert Kreischer. And he met every fan. But then I saw him later on the road. He was doing theaters and he couldn't. He's like, he did a drawing. Like you did everyone's ticket number. They pick 25 and you get to meet him because it's not feasible, which is a good place to be as far as success. And like, you want to talk about like being in a capitalist society, you're making money, you're going to have generational wealth for your family. And like, you can pick and choose where you go. But I like rolling into the small towns. I like meeting the weirdos afterwards and like getting to shake hands with people and just be like, thank you for like taking a chance on me. Cause I'm not Eliza. I'm not Amy Schumer. I'm not someone that you like have heard of in the bigger scheme. So like just going, oh, let's check out this person.
Right.
I love it.
But those usually are cooler people than someone who has listened to everything you've ever done ever, and then they're here with like your face on a shirt, and like and you're like, ooh,
that's intense. But also, I'm more like, it's like that self-deprecating thing that like creeps up that I'm like, I'm gonna let you down. Like this can't sustain. I have a couple fans like that around the country, and it's like I remember them. I remember their names because it's like I only have a handful of people who think I'm Beyonce, but like, I mean, I've had one guy who's bought the same album like 4 times.
That's cool.
It's so cool because he's like, I just want to support you, which makes me like, I really got to come up with more merch. This is all I have. And he's like, I'll buy it again. Like I've had 2 people cry when they met me, and I don't know how to. I'm like, me? Are you okay?
Yeah, you're looking behind you.
But like, I just cannot imagine what it's like to be someone at like a superstar level, because it's like, I get over like one person doing that. I'm like so grateful, but also like I gotta get away from you. I don't know how to help you.
Right. Yeah. Like it's very like thank you, but I don't know what to do with this.
Thank you. Bye. It's so true.
All right. And so the next question is, what's a situation that you no longer put up with within comedy?
Oh, that's a great question. I won't do like unpaid shows where there's like, because then, okay, so like everyone listening, like in LA, because just in case you think like everyone in LA is like rolling around in money, there's a lot of shows that it's just like you're just doing a spot and you don't really make money. They'll give you drink tickets, whatever. I won't do those with more than a certain number of people in the lineup. I'm not gonna wait around all night to like go up. I mean, I won't do. I barely do. I haven't been to like just an open mic in years. When I first started, I would pay $5 for 5 minutes at a comedy club because it was around the corner, and I was just like, whatever. And it was like a guaranteed spot. I mean, that hasn't been even in the realm of a possibility for years, but I won't do that. I'm trying to think. I don't take any grand stands on shows as far as like for personal and political reasons. I will not. Here's the thing that I think is different from comedian. There's comedians who will refuse to perform if so and so's on a lineup, and I'm like, I'm not going to let whatever that person has done inhibit me from furthering my creative ability. That it's like I was on a festival where I don't even remember what happened. Of course, some guy was a creep. I don't even remember who it was.
Shocking.
Some guy got on the festival who was a creep.
Oh, creep.
And someone complained. He ended up getting pulled off, but there was someone who's like, I am not doing it, and I hope other women won't do it. And I'm like, yeah, why would you why would you remove your opportunity? Because like, I'm always like, yeah, if you're giving me a spot just because you're like, we need one woman, I am going to show up and be like, fine, I'm going to drop my big woman dick on the table and be like, maybe you should book more women. And then there's just like distances I won't go for like shitty paid gigs. And the Comedy Store has afforded me that opportunity a little, because I mean, it's weird now, but like Rogan, when he was in the store, he's like selling out main rooms. Those checks for a 15-minute spot would be just as much as I'm going to get offered for some like one-nighters. And like, you know, people would be like, oh yeah, you can. I had a club offered to headline me for a week, 9 shows for $900, but I have to put myself up and get myself out there. And I was like, no, but there were things that, I mean, like, I in the past have been the comic who, not trying to fuck anyone over, but I'm sure I undercut someone else's opportunity by being like so excited for. And there was a time where I headlined a weekend for $400 somewhere in bumfuck nowhere, where it's like, I should have asked for more. They absolutely should have paid me more. Like, but I didn't know. And now it's like, I have enough confidence in how things are going, in my ability, that like I can go, no, you know, I don't go fuck yourself. One time I said, go fuck yourself, but they needed to go fuck themselves. I just go, oh, you know, actually, like, that's kind of below my rate. It's not going to work out for me, but thank you. I'll circle back to you. Because I also get it. It's like, you know, especially if it's a club that doesn't know me or whatever, like, fine.
Well, also, I think you just don't know. Like, if I give a 5-year-old $100, they don't know what they can buy. Right?
Yeah.
So, like, when you first start, if someone's like, I mean, you're paying $5 to get a 5-minute spot, and if someone's like, "Yo, I'll give you $300 to come work a month straight," you're like, "That's more than I'm doing now." Like,
it's like I'm no longer negative. I would spend $5 a day for the month coming out of the hole. Yeah, no, it's all relative too. And it's like when you first start getting offered money for stand-up, you're like, it's happening. I'm driving 3 hours for $50. And that's part of it. And that's absolutely should be part of it. You know what I mean? It's like, there is a time where it's like, you know what? I'm going to break even, and it's an investment, because if I do well here, maybe they'll have me back.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's the big, I don't do much more investing. I don't lose money for comedy. And it's like, I now feel comfortable. There's a time where it's like, oh, if I say no, does this close the store forever? And it's like, no, like I could say no to a club if they're like, that's out of our price range, which is insane because I still have a very low rate. But like, I can say no and be confident that like, I'm going to get to a place where like, I can come back to them and they'll go, oh yes, let's have you, let's go. Like, it's not like they're gonna say no and be like, I'll say no and they'll be like, well, you can go fuck. We'll never have you here. Cause I'm like, I will eventually have a fan base that you're like, we should have her here.
That's the thing about comedy clubs. They, for as powerful as they are, they're not at all. Like if you get to a point where you could sell out a room, you could come spit in my mom's face and be like, I'm still selling out 6 shows, bitch. And I'm like, here's your check. Like, there's
it was so great having you. What's funny, because like, and most comedy club owners they're pretty cool about it. There's like, you run into a couple bookers who like really have a power trip about their little club, and I've had 2 email interactions where I was like, oh, you're an asshole. Like, you could just say no, but you had to be an asshole. Like, there was one where literally like a guy was such a dick that I had this very egotistical moment of, because I was like, oh, I'd love to come feature as a showcase and like, you know, whatever, you know, fine. It's fine. I get a lot of no's or ignoring me. That's fine. But he just said such like asshole shit that I was like, someday I'm going to do a show in the parking lot next to your club and take your audience. I didn't say that, but in my like mind, my stupid like 3-year into comedy diabolical, like, you'll pay for this. But it's just so funny that like I think comedians give the booker, the person, like too much power in their head, where it's just like, a lot of times a no is just like, yeah, not right now, it's not a fit, we're booked up, but we're all fucking broken, so we go, oh, I guess they just hate me. It took me booking a show. I booked a monthly show in my yard, such low stakes, to realize how inundated bookers get.
Yeah.
And that, because that was like nothing, and I was getting like harassed. That I went, oh, it's not personal at all. Even if it is, who gives a shit?
Yeah, I mean, there's a very thin line between I fuck you and I need you when you're booking.
Yeah. And it's like, all right, cool. I'll just circle back. I'll just get another credit and then I'll email you then. And it's funny because like sometimes a lot of my starts at certain clubs have just been, I happen to send that email at the right time and they go, oh, you know what, actually, what about this weekend? And then I show up and do a good job and they're like, great.
I can't even tell you how many times that's happened to me where someone just emails at the right time.
They happen to be at the top of the list.
And you're like, hey, or someone will be like, hey, I need a redhead feature with one leg. And then a redhead feature with one leg is like, hey, I'm available if you ever need me. And you go, perfect. Like, there's times when it just lines up like that.
Yeah, and I've gotten some of those where it's like, the headliner wanted a woman. And it's like, yeah, it's like, does the ego in me want to be booked because they're like, you're just so good. But I'm like, oh, if anyone wants a woman, hit me up. I'm here being a woman the whole time. So let me know. I'll do it, you know?
Well, that's why I'm thrilled that there's a lot of very funny ladies. Because if it was at the point where they're like, hey, I just want a woman and I'm booking some fucking dingbat who sucks, that's terrible. But if someone's like, yo, I need a woman, there's so many that I can be like,
they're going to
come
from.
And might wipe you off the stage.
I know. Well, and that's been a cool thing about just like, excuse me, the expansion of comedy and like more people like being aware of it is that, you know, there was a time in like the 80s where it was like, it's still probably more men than women in it now, but it's like you had the handful of funny women and that's who you knew. And that's what you had to choose from. But now it's like more women are trying it, more women are getting in there. And it's so refreshing to see.
Yeah. So last question, then I'll let you get out of here. Again, thank you for fucking around with me. I very much appreciate it.
I miss you. I miss Portland. I'm going to jump off that bridge behind you. Next time I come up there, it'll be fun. Yeah. I know I haven't been there in a while. I'll be there.
You're the last time I fucked up because I forgot to get your information when you left.
Yeah, you know what's so funny? I think I have like Nick Helium written in like marker somewhere on a book to like remember to get in touch with him. Anyway,
it was my mistake. But tell us about a fond moment you've had before or after a show that still sticks out to you.
Oh, okay. I might cry, but that's just because I'm a pussy, and also I think my period's coming. But I have a whole chunk on mental health. I talk about my own depression, but I also talk about I have an autoimmune disease called rheumatoid arthritis. It's degenerative. Nobody gives a fuck about it because it's called arthritis. They're like, oh yeah, like, I mean, that's the thing. You hear arthritis, you think of like your grandma, and they're like, yeah, no, like I stubbed my toe, I get it, but it's autoimmune, so my own immune system like attacks my joints, and it's like, I'm fine right now, by the way. Anyone listening to this, like, oh god, like I still very grateful. I have like all my mobility, and even though it's degenerative, mine seems to be progressing very slowly, but it can change at any moment, and it's like, it's just scary. It's a lot on your plate, and like sometimes I have days where like my hips hurt, and I'm like, I should be too young to be like my hip, but I'm not. I started doing jokes about it, and I have had on more than one occasion someone comes up to me after the show and has been like, they also have it, and they go, hey, thank you. I have rheumatoid arthritis. I deal with it, and it's very hard to explain to people, and you know, a lot of times I'm very sad about it, and you took it and you kind of put it through this lens of like, this is the hand you were dealt, and how can I laugh about it? And that really helps me. And I get people, I finally posted a bit on my Instagram that has a little bit of it in there, and the amount of people have been like DMing me and going like, you know, this really means a lot to me, because it's, you know, sometimes on bad days it's hard to find like a laugh, and like it's cool to see you saying you have it, and then like still, you know, going forward with your dream, not letting, because the thing that I think a lot of people, until you have a chronic illness or chronic pain, I wouldn't have thought about it, but it weighs on you mentally as well. Like I didn't realize it's actually with rheumatoid arthritis specifically, when your body attacks, when your joints, it's like a lining of the joints, but it releases a chemical that actually causes depression. So on top of you being like stressed because you're like, am I gonna die? Am I gonna be in a wheelchair in a year? It's like literally chemically causing depression. So finding ways to like make light of, because there's a lot of things that, and then, you know, there's a lot of people who get triggered about topics or things you just can't, you can't talk about that. But like, we all cope in different ways. And for me to be like, sometimes all you can do, because there's so little you can control about a situation, is to laugh at it. And having other people find catharsis in that, whether it's rheumatoid arthritis or when I talk about depression, and like I've had people be like, thank you, because I try to explain it to my family and they like don't get depression. They're like, just like suck it up. That's, to me, that's the best.
No, I love it because I think comedy shines light on things, and when you feel your worst is when you feel like no one sees you, right? Like I'm alone, I'm by myself, I'm dealing with whatever,
and you feel everything feels so personal. Anytime you're like low and sad, it feels like, oh, I must be so unique in feeling this way, and like everyone else is fine, and I'm a burden because I'm sad, or I'm in pain, or I'm injured, or I'm disabled, and it's like, oh, I'm not alone. And that's, I think, at the root of like what comedy is. Like this is absolutely something I thought of while I was tripping out of my fucking mind on mushrooms. But like,
great thoughts.
Laughter really is like this it's like an overjoy at feeling understood. Like when you really laugh, it's like, yes, we laugh at like silly things, but it's like, it's this like deep level of connecting where you're like when you laugh, when someone does an observational joke about something that you're like, other people do that? I thought only I did that. You go like, it's like this, it's a release and a relief. You're like, oh God, we're all fucking weirdos. We're all just itching our buttholes or whatever the joke is. I don't know.
Yeah, like the thing where people look and like, oh, you did that, remember? Like that happens all the time. There's this thing about, hey, let's get it. Oh yeah, this is great. That I think real serious issues, like depression or RA and stuff, where people need to hear like, it's okay, it's all right, let's laugh about it, let's get it out, and
let's
we'll deal with
address the elephant in the room. Yeah, and it's like, I mean, anyone who's seen my comedy, I think, is aware that like, no point did I set out to be like, I'm gonna change the mental health landscape. I just was like losing my mind and then started talking about it, and then like, I mean, for me, a lot of my humor, I realized through like the years of making jokes, is like really based in like, it comes from a place of like deep fear of like what's going to happen and what is this, and like it was my own way of dealing with it, and then seeing other people be able to like feel okay because I'm dealing with it, and they're like, oh well, if you can deal with it, anyone can. You're a fucking pussy. No, but like it's really cool. It's cool to go like, oh, I just wanted to like make light of something and this really helped you. And that's like, nothing feels better than helping someone. It's the best feeling.
Yeah, especially when you're doing something that you love to do.
Yeah, when it's like you're just up there having fun and then someone connects with it in a way that you're like, I mean, I think we all, like, every comedian, it's, in some form you're trying to bring joy to people, I think. Or you just, I don't know what other reason someone would be. I mean, there's some people who are just like, I just want to be a star and be adored, and they're crazy. Right. But like, you become a comedian because you're like, oh, I make people laugh. It makes them happy. And so then to hit an even deeper level when you were just like, not only did you make someone happy, you're like, you made them feel understood, when like, sometimes, all of us, we have days where we feel like nobody understands us. I'm going to cry because I'm just such a pussy. I'm like, it's just nice to feel understood, right, you guys?
I mean, no, you said it like at the very center core of it. That's what it is. Understand me so I'm not ostracized, right? Like, get what I'm doing so we are together.
Yeah. And also that you can do like a crazy thing that's like gross or weird and like, fuck it. We all do it. It's okay. Everyone's not going to turn on you and hate you forever. And if I have to be the scapegoat of like, well, look at all this fucked up shit I did, and there's still some people who love me, so you'll be okay. So it's like, if what my comedy is like, well, at least I'm not that lady, then fine.
Jesus. Well, Jessica, for real, I've missed you.
I missed you.
I can't believe how much I have missed you. I wish I could see you soon. We'll get together. I'll have to get you up in Portland sometime.
Yeah, get me up there. I'll come up. We'll figure it out.
And then where should people go fuck with you? Like, where should we send people?
Come fuck with me all over the internet at JMS Comedy. If you're in Indianapolis on June 15th, that's coming up tomorrow, I guess, when this thing is released. Tuesday, June 15th, I am at Helium in Indianapolis, and then the day after that, St. Louis at the Helium, and we'll see. I think I'm gonna turn these dick jokes into an album, and yeah, at JMS Comedy, jmscomedy.com/shows to see when I'm coming near you. If you're not out there, and I have, of course, my podcast with Nicole Amy Schreiber, Two Filthy Nerds.
Perfect. Thank you again so much. The Beyonce of comedy.
That's a credit now. I'm putting that in my bio.
I mean, yeah. I was gonna go with the park ranger of comedy.
I mean, that's
but that seemed you'd have to show up with like a falcon or something to your shows.
I wish I could. I think I'm just gonna start a park ranger character. It's like too fun.
It's too great. Well, good luck this week. I hope the shows go great, and I'll talk to you soon.